Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Our patient today is the MSI board. The model is MS7C81, that is MAG B460 Tomahawk. It's a nice one. It can handle pretty serious CPUs, not too serious, but pretty good CPUs. 4 memory banks. We have 2 M.2 ports for the SSDs, 6 SATA outputs, 1 full size and 1 quarter size PCI Express. Now what's wrong with it? There are 2 issues that I identified, and if these are the only issues, we might be able to get this one working again. So obviously issue number 1, this is 1151 socket with bent pins. Now some of them are bent only slightly, and it shouldn't be an issue to bend them back into position. 2 or 3, as far as I noticed, are bent in a very unfortunate way, and the way that happens, imagine this is the pin, right? This is what touches the CPU, right? As the CPU as the CPU presses, it bends a little, right? But even if you just gently touch it with your finger, if you catch one of these, they will bend like so. This is not bad, you can bend it back, but if you put the CPU on it, what happens is this. Some of the pins are bent this way, like 2 or 3 of them. So now, if you bend it back like this, there's a good chance it'll snap here, right? So the procedure needs to be done very slowly. If you bend it back too quickly or just kind of pull on it, it's gonna break. We do have replacement sockets that came along with the boards. So we got 3 boards for repair, and we have replacement sockets. So we can replace the socket, but I would prefer to bend the pins because socket replacement is not my domain. However, outline, yeah, the outline is not great. Not great at all, so this will be hard to align. See? Yeah. This will be definitely hard to align. Other than that, we have missing capacitor here that is almost causing a short over here, but not quite. I checked the board for shorts, no shorts anywhere, so it's good, but we need to replace this cap. Now what this cap is, it's this one. So it's 560 mics at 6.3 volts, and it just basically stabilizes 5 volts in front of 2 MOSFETs, which in turn drive this coil, which supplies memory voltage, 1.2 volts. So this cap needs to be replaced. I don't have the direct replacement, but I have something close enough that it should be good. Now let's dive in. So as you can see, some of them are bent just slightly. Some of them, and they are, one is over here. Yeah, this one is twisted into a pretzel. Let me get a pointy thingy here. That's twisted into a pretzel. There's another one over here somewhere. This one, also pretzel. and slight bending on some of them. So some of this will be very easy to bend back, some of them will not. Now in case of these, as you can see, it needs to be also bent this way, because it needs to sit here on the, being pressing against here. Otherwise it's going to be too long and it's going to touch the wrong pin. So let's see what we can do. We're going to need few tweezers here of different properties. And let's bend it all back. I might need to use the other scope though. But let's see. First I'm going to try on this scope, and I might need to switch to the other one. Alright, so 2 or even 3 pins broken off, and those that were twisted, right? So this thing, as soon as you bend it back like this, it won't get straight. And I even did it really slowly on one of them, like extremely slowly, and I felt it, like as soon as you go from this position, as soon as you go slightly here, it it already feels like it's going to break off. Any more movement and it's going to break off. So we'll see. Some of them are ground, some of them are VCCSA. So these are redundant pins, so at least we'll make sure that the board works. But in this case, this needs to be the socket needs to be replaced. No way around it. So let's see. This isn't 11. Yeah, this is a different one. I thought this was 1151 because the pins look the same, but it's not. We got i3 10th generation. Very nice. Yeah. So once those pins are bent, if it wasn't for the CPU being put on the board, this would be recoverable. But someone was just testing it, most likely, see if it boots, without correcting the pins, and we got a sandwich. Well, let's see. Let's get some memory here. So to slot 2. This one. The cap that I replaced is 1800 mic instead of 6, whatever it was supposed to be. It fits, but it's slightly bigger than the original. It'll work just as well. Alright, so the CPU is not detected, which was to be expected. So we need to replace the socket on this one, which is a bad news because here's the trick. Look at all these cups around the socket. I will have to remove them. Before replacement. It's not even about the room, because there's enough room for the nozzle, but I'm just worried that they're gonna start exploding once I get it up to the temperature. Okay, let's put this one aside. Well, at least it boots and it recognizes that the CPU is not present. So at least electrically everything's fine with it. So that's a good news. Because that probably means that if we successfully replace the socket, the board should be fine. But emphasis on word successfully. Now this one is 1151 and slight pin bending. Let's see if we can. So this one is Gigabyte Z370 Aorus Gaming 7. We have just slight bending. this should be easily recoverable, because there are no pretzels. It's the pretzels that are. Okay, that's another one for the socket replacement. Unfortunately, the pin snapped. I don't know which one it is, meaning I don't know if it's VCC or V-core or ground. So we'll see if it was redundant or not. Either way, this needs a new socket as well. That's probably gonna be the case with all of these. Okay, this is 1151. We have a... Oh, this one actually has a on button. That's nice. It flashed. Okay, yeah. So this is different issue. Turns on and off. I've seen that issue before. And it shines CPU. Yeah. So that pin must have been crucial. Okay. So that's the board number 3 for socket replacement. It does have a built-in postcard, so at least we'll be able to tell what the problem is if it doesn't boot after the socket replacement. This one has all the heat sinks on it, and it's pretty big. The size of these heat sinks. It's all the way here. All of this. Usually it's plastic, but this is huge, and this one as well. Huge. And we have additional 4-pin connector for the V-core, which means this board can handle awesome CPUs like i9 easily. So this is very powerful board. Now let's see what the socket looks like. It gets stuck on RAM. So let's see if we get memory voltage. 199, 1.2 volts. So this is fine. It's weird because initially it goes CPU, memory, and it resets. CPU, memory, resets. And after a few cycles, it just stuck on memory. Okay, so the output, this is where we measure, right? I think I measured on this side. It doesn't really matter. We have 1.2 volts. That goes directly to the memory, because I was thinking maybe there is another something in between, right? Like a fuse or something, like this one, right? But this fuse is good, and it actually just, yeah, it's unrelated to memory. What is it? Oh no, actually it uses DDR SPD. This is like ridiculous font that someone picked, bold. You can't even read this. Where's TU1? What is this? VIT power or VTT power? We have enable pin pulled up. We can check if we have output on this chip. Okay, 0.6 is fine. For DDR4, 0.6 is fine. So this is fine. Which is bad news because we don't know what the issue is. So the only thing I was looking for, or primarily, was physical damage. Oftentimes, when you try to plug in the memory and you, instead of plugging it in, you plug in between, you crush one of those caps, they cut short, and that's what causes the issue. But there's nothing on the camera, on the thermal camera. If any of these was crushed and shorted, you would have seen it. Plus, I measured it. Plus, we would have a short on the output of the memory rail. VTT is fine. Alright, what do we have? Almost 2 hours of this. So this one is a tough one. This is a tough one. If you guys have any ideas where to look, what to confirm, because other than voltages, there's not much I can check. I mean, I could maybe hook up the scope to the outputs and just kind of see if the data is making it through, but my scope is, my scope is only going to tell us whether there is some signal or not. We won't be able to debug anything or to confirm anything in particular. And you know what? Let's check one last thing before we give up on this one. Let's check if the CPU gets all 3 voltages. We know it gets V-core because the CPU is recognized by the board, so it definitely gets V-core. But does it get SA and IO? We have 2 VCC IOs on these 2 coils. So let's check the voltage on them, and I think the last one over here, this one will likely be the IO. Let's see. SA, yeah. I meant to say SA. This is IO. Okay, so let's check, because the CPU might be functioning without one of these voltages, but it prevents it from communicating with memory. It is a possibility, because I don't see anything wrong with memory circuitry. Let's see, the enable on this one, I think it's this one, no, this one, yeah. So this one is enabled, that's why we have almost 1 volt over here. This one is not enabled, so we have 0 here. And both of these are controlled by these 2. I don't get it. Maybe you guys can help me. So, this is drain 2. This is gate 2. Now on our gate 2, we get always 5 volts from 5 volt standby, right? So gate and drain. Gate 2 and drain 1 are both connected. So gate 2 is always open, or it's always high. So drain 2 is always low because S2 is connected to ground. No resistor, no nothing. Right? So drain 2 will always be low. And we have 2 resistors that produce, one of them is connected to 12 volts, this one goes to ground, and this one goes to 12 volts. So it's the voltage divider or resistor divider. 300K and 100K to ground. All right. So this is exactly what we see on the schematic. So as far as I can see, this will always be low. Like this will never turn on. The only way, okay, I see it now. So the only way it would turn on is when we turn off VCC IO 0. So this goes low. No, the other way around. So if this turns on, then the voltage on D1 and voltage on G2 will drop because we're going to start draining. But this is only 47K. So my question is, should this, when we turn on this one, should it also turn on D2 or cause the D2 to go high? Because the voltage on the gate will drop. So S1 goes further to D2 over here, or D1 over here. And when the CPU ID goes high, so G1, if it goes high, let's check the voltages on our gates. So what we expect right now, we have which one is it? This one? Yes. VCC IO 0 enable. Right? This is high. So our G1 is high. G2 and D1. So these two I would expect to be low. Right? We should have 5 volts here and we should have nearly 0 over here. This might be completely blind alley that we're venturing here. Oh, it's still 5, which goes to the second one here. So let's see, the G1 on the second one, this one, CPU ID, so this should be high. It is not. Why is it not high? D1. No, G1, right. So CPU ID is low, but if it's low, then I would expect D1, because this one's fully open. G1 is fully open, so I would expect D1 on the second one to be at 5 volts if the G1 on the second one on Q59 is closed, which it is. So I would expect 5 volts here, and we have half of that, or whatever it was, 3 point whatever. All right, we're closing to 3-hour session on this on this board, or at least 2 hours on this particular board. I don't think the second I/O should be enabled at this point. So I don't think that actually causes the memory to not be visible. Now we could confirm it by just routing 1 volt to I/O, to the 12 I/O, or just route 5 volts to enable pin. That will force the VCC I/O to be produced, or the second I/O to be produced, if that is the problem, but I don't think it is. I think this works as expected. I don't know, but I do know that I need to get some breakfast because it's 11 o'clock. I gotta eat something. Well, I hope you enjoyed this very boring session, but at least we learned some stuff, and I'm gonna be working on this. Yeah, I haven't given up yet. We have board view and we have schematic. So, well, schematic is pretty awful when it comes to the font, but it's better than nothing. So we should be able to figure this out as long as the PCH and all that works correctly. But in this case, I'm kind of suspecting that perhaps PCH is faulting. But I need something more substantial, like missing voltage or something like that. Right now we do have sort of missing voltage, but we don't know if it should go high or not. So I will actually look into that maybe on some other boards, and see if I can find something similar, and see if that voltage goes high. If it goes high, then we know that that's the issue, but we'll see. In any case, thank you guys very much for watching. I do appreciate you, and I shall see you in the next one.